Oh,
Hello.
action. How's it going,
How
peeps?
is it going?
Go
This
ahead.
girl's gone spooky.
This is Girls Gone Spooky.
This is Amy.
And I'm Olivia. Wow, we're kalahunky.
Yes. Let's start over.
Okay, hi, I'm Olivia.
And I'm Amy.
And
This
this
is
is Girls Gone
Gone
Spooky. In case you missed
There
it
we
the
go.
first time.
That was better.
Okay, you start because I want to hear this news, this update.
Okay. So last week's episode, we talked about Hagface. Poor.
Because she's ugly.
Yeah. Poor Mother Shipton Hagface. And how she made prophecies, including one about the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I scoured the internet and did not find that anywhere except that one source that I used.
Damn.
So I think
but
they might have made
history.com?
No.
That was a different one?
That's where I got all the Wicca information.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, what? I
know.
really feel like history wouldn't
embellish like that.
Yeah, make something up. I feel like they're pretty good.
Yeah. So no luck, but they had some direct quotes from her, but it was not anything about the internet, which I think is what we were most interested in.
Yeah. Well, I also made a promise.
Yes.
And I, on the other hand, was able to deliver. So shout out my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, his first response, let me actually read it. His first response was, because I said, question for you. How would you describe the internet to someone living in the 1500s? He goes, what? I have zero idea. Have you gone crazy and spooky? I said, just try. I know you can do it. He said, I'll try. I said, that's the spirit. So I saw him today and he was like, here's what I would say. It'd be 2 phrases in one. Imagine a library with all of the books in the world, with all of the world's knowledge, where you'd have immediate access to every piece of knowledge inside. And then in addition to that, it's the ability to communicate with anyone in the world at any time without having to be physically present. I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is really good.
He thought he couldn't do it, but he did it.
I think he did it. I think he nailed it.
I think he
might be a witch.
He might be a witch. I should ask him. we could start calling him Hagface. He'd really appreciate that. Perfect. No, he's very handsome. You're very handsome, Dad. We're not going to call you Hagface. But I wonder if we test his clairvoyance and ask him, okay, what do you think the future of technology is going to look like? The problem is I feel like we're already living in the future of technology, which is like AI.
Yes.
And like crazy people like Elon Musk are already putting chips in people's brains. So I feel like we're already there, but maybe I'll ask and see what he thinks.
And we'll check back in how many years?
Check back in 30 years or hundreds of years, I guess. Although who knows how many hundreds of years we have on this planet. Anyway.
Right. Depressing.
Yeah.
That is
but yeah. A little scary.
Well, thank you, Hagface.
Yeah, thanks, Hagface. And thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Because you're not Hagface.
I was referring to your dad. Just kidding.
Just kidding.
Thank you.
Yes, that was good. Okay, so our theme for today is haunted museums. And this is probably going to be the last of our summer series. We've been kind of like going every other, doing like general topics and then back to haunted summer. So this is probably going to be the last of our haunted summer. So you go on a little family vacation. You're like, this is a new city. We should check out the local museums. Disaster strikes. Yeah. There are ghosts and mummies and dark energies surrounding you, swirling around your family and your Birkenstocks and your fanny packs and your little cameras with the straps around your neck and your Ray-Bans, and it's just swirling around your family, and then you're chased home to Florida.
Oh my god.
Had to put you all
I loved that.
in the mindset.
Yeah.
I'm an
So
actress, a
it's attached
thespian.
now forever.
Yeah,
You're back in
exactly.
Florida, but it's still with you.
Yeah, it's still with you. So
Ooh.
I think I'm going first.
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
do it.
So I have 6 and we're going to ease in. And they're not, none of them are really long. So I'm just going to we're going to ease in. Okay.
Okay.
They're all from Reddit. This is from Otherwise Link 6971. And the title is Weird Vibes in an Art Museum. Hi, y'all. I went to my city's local art museum, and they had an exhibit of suits of armor, chainmail, swords, and helmets. All kinds of things of that sort. When I went into that part of the exhibit, I suddenly felt really unsettled. I don't want to say that I felt like a ghost was there or anything because I'm not really sure that I believe in that. However, I just felt so uncomfortable looking at the armor as it felt overwhelmingly human. Stay with me. When I saw it, I didn't think, whoa, cool, slaying dragons and saving princesses. It was very much like, oh my God, people were inside of this. People wore this, sweat in it, bled in it, maybe killed in it. Even the ornamental items that weren't labeled as something that had been worn in battle just felt too personal and eerie to look at. With the full armor suits, some of them felt mean. And this one that I'm posting a photo of felt the meanest to me, and they include one. I couldn't look at them for too long because I felt as though they'd get mad? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I've never felt anything like this ever. I was able to go through the things in the ancient Egypt and ancient Rome exhibits just fine, and I still felt really giddy about seeing basic things and knowing they were held by someone thousands of years ago. But when I tell you a few of these suits felt off to me, I don't know. I guess my question is for an average person who has never felt scared of armor, and then in parentheses, friends growing up had some in their homes, not real, I think. Like the way someone afraid of clowns would feel afraid of a clown picture even. What would cause me to feel so unsettled by them? Do y'all know of any armor ghost stories to justify my feelings to my friends the next time they bring it up? Let me know. So someone was like, it's possible that this armor was even like parade armor, that it wasn't even worn into battle. But then the original poster said this one that he shared the image of, this was specifically labeled as field armor pre-1500s. I think this one could have been a mean jouster, lol.
I love it.
There was armor that was used for battle as well. On one of the helmets, they noted that the single indent was likely a maker's mark of the quality, but the adjoining chest piece, which it did state was too heavy to wear on a battlefield, was riddled with spots, and it noted that it likely served its wearer well. It was a cool exhibit, but some of these things really gave me a chill. And people's theory was, and the original poster basically agreed, was like spirits can really attach themselves to any object. And you're talking about something that was so old and was likely worn by probably multiple people, maybe generations of people, whether it was on a killing field or, like in some sort of like battle royale jousting situation. Kind of doesn't matter. Like the energy is there. So it's possible that they were really, really just feeling the spirit of that previous owner, and maybe they don't like their things to be on display.
Wow. Spooky.
So spooky.
That is so cool in museums, thinking about who wore that, who touched that, who
held it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so amazing.
Or made it. I mean, when you look at pottery and stuff like that, that was made however long ago, centuries and centuries.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And the fact that they were, sometimes it's not intentional, but oftentimes they were able to preserve it intentionally.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling to me.
Oof. I wish
Wild.
I could time travel.
I know. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Would that be your superpower of choice?
I might choose teleportation over that.
Yeah.
Because I really would like to just pop up next to you sometimes.
Right. Oh, I know.
Just at any time.
I know. So bad.
Yeah.
That's the most logical one. I think if I'm being like frivolous, I would choose like underwater animal capabilities. So like either breathing underwater or holding your breath for like hours and hours.
Yeah.
And then when you get into the water, your feet and hands web so you can swim really fast.
Okay. I love that.
That would be my like frivolous superpower. But yeah, teleportation would be dope. I feel like it would be very uncomfortable to teleport.
Yeah, probably.
Like all your atoms just going
Yeah.
back together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be worth
I don't think
it.
it would be comfy.
No, you might get splinched.
Yeah, you might get splinched.
From
Exactly.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. Okay, ready for the next one? This one's quick. This is from Taco Sauce 3. I'm posting this to see if anyone who has been to the Ripley's in St. Augustine has had a similar experience. So, for some reason, the Iron Maiden really grabbed my attention. So, I stood looking at it for a minute while the group of 3 people I was with were to my left looking at something else. While I was looking at it, a figure that looked like a person in a white dress popped up in front of it. And if you've been to the museum, you know that the Iron Maiden is behind glass and kind of pushed pretty far back behind the glass. I'm a total chicken, so I immediately jumped over to the right side away from the glass and sort of started laughing at myself for getting so scared when it was probably just an optical illusion. My boyfriend came over to see what was going on, and he saw the figure too, but just for a second. We all assumed that it was some kind of special effect or some part of the attraction. My boyfriend's mom and sister both stood in front of it waiting for the figure to pop up again, thinking it was a motion detector kind of thing, but it never did. I just laughed it off because my boyfriend had seen it too, so I just assumed it was on a timer or something like that. But then, when I found out about the history of the building, we found out there were 2 women who died there. And I started to wonder if maybe I had seen something paranormal. Curious if anyone has been there and had a similar experience. Please let me know. And they said, as an edit, because of people's comments, this was during a normal visit day. It wasn't the ghost tour version, because apparently there's a ghost tour version as well. Okay. So some people confirm that there are some special effects, but they're typically just on the ghost tour version. So it could have been sort of a glitch, but one of the commenters, Pretty Owl, said that the building is definitely haunted, though. And there's a theory that the last occupants of the house were actually murdered there and set fire, and the building was put on fire to hide the evidence. So I don't know. Then there are other theories that they died from smoke inhalation, but it seems that there was like some foul play with the fire being set either way. So
wow.
very weird.
Yeah. Is
weird.
The Iron Maiden the thing that's like with nails and it closes around you? Ooh.
Yes. I'm just pulling it up to make sure I'm thinking of the right thing. Oh my God, of course, it's just the band.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah.
It was a torture device, right?
Yeah, it was a torture device. That's right. Yeah, it is that thing where you're just like enclosed in it. Which, I mean, it would be surprising to me that there would be some bad fucking juju beside one of those if it had been used to torture people.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense to me.
Scary.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah. Okay. This next one is from Nico Suave 86, which is so good.
Yeah, perfect.
So this is the Museum of Shadows in Omaha. That's like what the actual place is called. And this person basically had this paranormal experience and posted it on their Facebook page because it is a like paranormal place. So they say, we went to the Museum of Shadows in Omaha yesterday. It's a really creepy old building with a bunch of supposedly haunted artifacts. We paid an extra $10 for an EMF reader, which is kind of cute.
Yeah.
It lights up red whenever it detects electromagnetic frequencies, and it beeps faster and faster when a frequency is very strong. So it's like the ones you see in like Ghostbusters. It would spike a little bit around certain dolls, so apparently there were a lot of dolls. But nothing really super notable at first. However, it went absolutely nuts on a particularly creepy clown picture, and it was so consistent that we suspected there had to be a junction box or something behind the wall. We were able to confirm that this was the case later in the sit challenge room, so a different area, and we'll get to the sit challenge part. Yeah, like you have to sit in the room for a certain amount of time, and it's like, I mean, the fact that that's a challenge is alarming.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, we tried to identify the source for this room, why it was going off so much, by going down into the basement. And sure enough, there was a ton of thick conduit underneath where we were standing on the first floor. So we wrote off the creepy clown picture as a fun museum prank. But as we were waving the EMF reader around, this wooden display cabinet started lighting up the reader. The cabinet was in front of a brick wall, and there didn't appear to be any electrical wiring or anything around it. In fact, there were hardly any lights at all down there, except for the red lights at the other end of the basement in an area called, quote, the demon room, LOL.
Oh, great.
Great. The EMF reader eventually localized on a single doll in this cabinet called Roberta.
Oh, man.
Yeesh.
There's so many dolls
I know.
that we have to keep track of.
I know. There's Robert, there's Roberta, there's Peggy,
Annabelle,
yeah. Of course, the OG.
Yikes.
Okay, so Roberta is the doll. She was in the darkest corner of the basement, and you had to crouch down to even see her, which is somehow creepy. That, like, if you're standing, you can't keep your eye on her. Yes. I don't like that.
Yeah. No.
The reader would go crazy. Yeah. The reader would go crazy only when we were looking at her and shining a flashlight in her eyes. As soon as you looked away, the reader would stop beeping and flashing, even with it still pointing at her.
Yikes.
Whenever the reader calmed down, we could ask her questions, and it would respond with single beeps on the reader, as if to say yes to whatever we were asking. But every time we shined a flashlight in her eyes, the reader would go crazy again. The card attached said that it had a 10-year-old girl that was attached to the doll. So we got the impression that she just wanted some attention. We wouldn't have even noticed her if we weren't trying to get to the bottom of the clown picture. We said goodbye to her and looked at other stuff in the basement. And before we left the basement, we went back and played with her some more, but it was definitely less intense. We went back upstairs so my mom and sister-in-law could do a 10-minute sit challenge in a creepy room. While we waited, my brother and I went back down to Roberta, but the reader wasn't going off like it did before. But as soon as we said goodbye, the reader spiked to final time. Whoa. It was an absolutely wild experience, and hopefully the museum can move Roberta to the first floor so she can get the attention she seemed to crave.
Yeah. Oh.
So
okay. It's creepy,
weird.
But also, like, let's move her up.
Yes. Yeah. So the fact that, like, you know, so one of the commenters, which is like valid, was like, you confirm that there are conveniently placed pieces over electrical boxes, which is giving like these false hits. And the original poster was like, the false hit we found was consistently in the same place, which makes sense because if there's a box there of wiring behind the wall, then yeah, it's going to do the same thing every single time because it's not like the wiring is like moving. So what they were saying is like, what's crazy about the basement is that the EMF reader only lit up around the cabinet at first. And then when we shined a light in Roberta's eyes or were like directly engaging with her, the cabinet itself had 5 different shelves, each with a separate doll. And when we finally focused our attention on Roberta specifically, the other shelves stopped registering a hit. So it wasn't consistent the way you'd think if there was heavy wiring back there. And then the reader would only go off as long as they were looking at her. And then when they asked questions, it would give a single beep. So he was like, I realized that brick walls can still have conduit, but we tested all around the wall and got nothing, just not engaging with Roberta. That was the only difference.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's pretty compelling.
Yeah, to me too. And I don't know, the doll thing is so interesting. Like, I just feel like, I guess if it's a child spirit attached to it, that makes more sense. I wouldn't want to be trapped in a doll.
I don't think I would either.
That sounds terrible.
But it's like a little human form. Yeah. So it's familiar. Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Why it happens more.
Yeah, it just is eerie. It's just really eerie.
Yeah, very eerie.
I don't know. So, okay, this one is from someone who works in a museum, and I always think these are super interesting.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. So, okay. This is from Patroclus. So they say, I worked in a museum and had some weird things happen. very direct.
Yes.
So they say, I used to work in a museum. This was a couple of years ago, which was posted 4 years ago, so about 6. And it was an open air museum that consists of old houses that were transported from all over the country and placed in one spot. That already feels like a scary setup.
Yes.
To me.
Agreed.
Like moving something historic to another place. Like an artifact is one thing, but an entire like living area, a building, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't give me good vibes.
No.
Yeah. So they say I switched between the different buildings. So like they worked in different buildings. It just depended. One of the places I frequently worked in was one of the most remote areas, which was a little city town made out of tall buildings from Europe around the 14th and 16th century. Again, these buildings are originals. Also, what is like an architectural feat to be able to keep them intact? I don't even know how they would do that. And then they go on to say they've been transported stone by stone to this spot and rebuilt exactly.
Whoa, that's amazing.
It's amazing, and that seems worse because you're disassembling it and scattering all that energy and then reassembling it and like fusing it back in. I don't know.
Yeah. I kind of want to go there though. That sounds
it sounds really
cool.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds really interesting and like really committed to the bit in terms of
extremely.
Jeez. They're like,
impressive.
we're not going to get rid of them. We're going to, develop this area where they were, but rebuild them brick by brick.
Somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Okay. So they say for my story, I usually was the first one to arrive in the morning, which meant that I opened up the buildings and switched on the lights and stuff like that. Me being often too lazy before my first cup of coffee, usually walked around in the dark to grab coffee and go to the toilets first. The toilets were on the second floor, and our little kitchen was a hidden room on the third floor. And oftentimes when I was at the toilets, I could hear footsteps on the stairs and then on the third floor. It's all made out of old wood, as you can imagine, so they creak a lot. At this point, me thinking it was probably the cleaning lady arriving, I head toward the third floor and open the door, only to find it empty and still dark. I'm not easily scared, so I just shrugged it off, made my coffee, went back downstairs to open for the day. My other colleague arrives about half an hour later, and I ask her about it, and she confirmed that I was absolutely the first and only one there that morning. No one else was on the schedule. Every time I heard the footsteps then was when I was alone in the morning, and I would cheerfully greet my fellow ghost on his way to coffee.
Oh.
As for my second story, this takes place in that same spot, however, not in the same building. During the day, I worked in the museum shop in the old city part, and usually it's pretty busy, so I didn't get much time to do anything else. But on days that it rained extremely hard, nobody would ever venture far enough into the park to come as far as the old city area. So on one of those days when I was extremely bored, I decided to explore the building a bit. This one also consisted of 3 floors. The ground floor was the shop, the first floor was storage, and then the second and third floors were supposedly empty. Me being curious by nature, wanted to see them, so I went up to the first floor and walked up to the door that's the entryway to the stairs to the second floor. The doors are really old, so the only lock on them are these little wooden pieces that you have to slide up, which I did. But as I pulled to open the door, which did open, it was suddenly and roughly pulled back closed and out of my hand, which was strange. Yeah. Which was strange because there was no draft or wind whatsoever at this point of the day. All the doors were closed, all the windows were too, and I didn't feel or hear any wind. So I tried again, and again it was pulled closed.
Whoa.
So I was like, okay, clearly something doesn't want me to go in here, so I'll leave it be. I went back downstairs and left it. Later, again, I asked my other colleague about it, asking if he ever went up there and if the door was maybe locked. I thought maybe I had imagined even opening it, that like maybe this whole experience I just like was confused.
Yeah.
But he confirmed that it was never locked. But he also said that nobody went up there ever since one of the guards had tried to take his own life there.
Oh.
I hadn't heard about that before, but I told my colleague about what happened to me that day, and he looked very spooked. Apparently, he had been hearing footsteps up there as well.
Oh, no.
Yeesh.
Wow.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
So
this person
creepy.
is very calm, though. they seem pretty chill about it.
Yeah, very chill.
That's for sure.
It's a museum in Belgium. That's, oh God, this name. Bokrijk. Bokrijk? I don't know. Rijk. Yeah. Anyway, it's supposed to be incredible. So yeah, weird, creepy museum employee story.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Maybe if we go to Belgium one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Would love that. Okay, I have two more. And these are my favorites. So this is from No Summer 1816, and this is at the Hollywood Museum. A few years ago, I took my kids to the Hollywood Museum for the Back to the Future exhibit. And after we checked out all the first floor had to offer, we went downstairs to the horror-themed stuff. It was all really cool and interesting, but there was a small room off to the side that was so weird. When I tried to walk in it, it was like I just couldn't do it. I think I took a couple steps in and I immediately felt physically ill and left the room feeling panicked. I called my kids over and without saying how it affected me, asked them to go inside. They couldn't fully enter the room either, and both said they felt dizzy and nauseated when they tried. I stood by the entrance while my kids continued to explore the rest of the downstairs. And during that time, I watched people walk up to that room, try and walk in, and immediately turn around looking pale. Not a single person would walk fully into the room in the roughly 30 minutes I stood there watching.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is going on in there?
I don't know. I think directly above this room was an area that looked like it was an elevator shaft. It was about the same width, but reached the ceiling, and I believe it had some stained glass windows toward the top. There were no weird feelings in that area above it. As we were leaving, I asked the woman in the front if there was any lore or background about the building being haunted, and the only thing she mentioned was that people had reported the women's restroom having some bizarre activity. I've been to quite a few quote unquote haunted spots in California and have never felt any sort of weirdness. Off the top of my head, I've been to the Queen Mary, the Winchester House, the Whaley House, the Coronado Hotel, the Biltmore, and others. They all felt like beautiful historic places with no weird vibes, but this room in this small museum was actually genuinely terrifying. And so they were just like, what the heck? And they sent photos of it, and it looks like a room in a museum. Like it's like it's like a basement area, and it has like a low ceiling and has like a red light kind of glowing, but also has big like stage lights to show the displays, because they have, let's see, what does this say? Monsters, mummies, and mayhem. They have like a little thing, you know, a little display. It just looks like totally normal, but apparently other people have had experiences at this like Hollywood museum as well. None of them said exactly where in the building who commented, but someone did say, I've been there a few times, and more than twice, not specifically in that specific room, I don't think, but maybe I had huge migraines that just like would not go away until I left the museum, and then like hours later.
Wow.
So I don't know. It makes me think about like the episodes we've done where we've talked about like haunted TV and movie sets, and that this is all like paraphernalia from those sets. And so if there's like weird energy and then you're putting it all in one like really small room, but it's weird, right?
That is really weird. And yeah, I actually have a story like that. From, we went to see one of the California missions. I can't remember which one it was. And there was a building I could not physically walk into. It was like,
what?
I felt like strangled by it. And I just could not go in there.
What was it like?
It was, well, turns out it was the infirmary. So lots of illness in there,
and
probably.
Death, probably, yeah.
And those, I mean, the missions are beautiful, but they have a problematic history, of course. So my family was able to go in, but so maybe I was just being dramatic, but I just like, it felt, like a hand around my neck, kind of. Like, I just did not want to go inside. It just felt really
not
dark
right.
and
Yeah.
bad.
Oh,
so,
God.
kind of can relate to that story a little bit. It's a weird feeling.
Jeez. I don't love that. Okay. This is my sixth and final. And this is from Remote Ad 4530. So they say, as a background, I used to be a museum tour guide at the Westport Maritime Museum in Westport, Washington. I will not name names, but I will share a series of experiences my coworker and I had there. The Westport Maritime Museum is known by many locals in Grays Harbor area to be haunted. It used to serve as a Coast Guard station until the 1970s. During its service, there was a lot of trauma involved. An auxiliary building next to it was once used as a garage and temporary storage facility to store the dead bodies of shipwreck victims after a disaster at sea at one point. Various employees and locals have reported orbs, footsteps, shadows, and tingling sensations. One day in October, my coworker and I were having some downtime as there was very little traffic coming in. We heard a bunch of banging and footsteps upstairs and the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. I got up and ran up the steps to see what was going on. No one was there. Fast forward a few months, and the same coworker and I do a ghost hunt one night after hours. During our ghost hunt, she felt something brushing up against her leg and skirt, and simultaneously, I felt this intense rush and a sort of negative vibe fell over me. It felt like the energetic sensation of someone rushing at me. As we viewed the footage, at the same time she felt that physical touch and I felt that negative rush, the camera, video, and audio glitched. Oh, this gives me chills. And a scratchy, raspy voice can be heard on tape saying, "Get him."
Oh, God.
When we saw and heard this on tape, our blood went cold and our eyes watered.
Yeah.
How
so scary.
Ooh,
oh my
scary.
God. Yeah.
It gives me mega, 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 mega chills.
Yeah. I hate that. The voice.
The audio glitching.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a no. It's a no for me.
No, same. And it kind of reminded me, it's not the same, but that video on Instagram of the girl who's in her bedroom.
Oh, the demon one?
Yeah, that scared me so bad.
That scared me so bad too.
I mean,
and when it slams the door at the end, like it's frustrated.
Yeah.
My hands are covered in sweat. Oh my God.
And like almost even more than that was it was like, honey, let me in.
I know.
It's like,
open the door for mommy.
Yeah.
Like, ew.
No.
And the girl was like, my mother would never talk to me like that.
Right. Ew. I hate it.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, that so easily could have been like, okay, go stand outside and do this. But like, I don't know. Something about it just seemed really, really, really off.
Yeah, it did. And if they were faking, they did a very good job.
A really good job. Yeah. That really scared me.
Yeah, same.
Okay, those are all my haunted museum stories.
Okay, I love it.
Yay.
Let me get mine.
Yes.
Okay. So I am starting with the British Museum, which, it's very old, very full of everything. So as you can imagine,
spooky things,
stuff happening. So this whole first part is kind of an interview, I guess, with somebody named Noah Angel, who, or Angel, I don't know. There's two L's.
Noah Angel. That sounds like a like a metal, or like a metal band member's name.
Yes, it does. And he wrote a book called The Ghosts of the British Museum.
Okay.
And one of the first stories he talks about is that there was a Dutch... so this book was... He interviewed a bunch of people that either worked at the museum or went there and had an experience. So these are some of the stories that he heard. So the first one is that a Dutch couple approached the information desk in the Great Court. They had been taking photographs in the Clocks and Watches Gallery,
Exciting.
I know. One of the images had disturbed them. So they were taking a picture of what was called the mechanical galleon, which they said is an extravagant 16th century automaton, which
what is
I
an
thought
automaton?
that was like a robot. I should have looked it up.
An automatron?
Automaton, moving mechanical device made in imitation of a human being. But
so it's like animatronics,
I guess,
or what they have at Disneyland, because that's animatronics, right?
Yeah, like Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, like Chuck E. Cheese, or like in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It says 16th century automaton with clockwork figures.
All right, damn. 1500s fucking witches, dude.
I feel like this could be something your dad is gonna be like,
100%.
What are you talking about?
100%. Okay. But also, sorry, but like, I just was really under the impression that people who lived in the 1500s really did not have much going on.
Yeah, same.
Plot twist, I was so very wrong.
Yeah.
They had a lot going on. Between hag face and Chuck E. Cheese style animatronics. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but what was going on was pretty bleak.
Yeah, right.
Wasn't the plague in the
like
1500s?
And no plumbing.
Yeah.
Which is really connected to the plague, because that's how the plague spread.
Right.
But yikes, dude.
I have to look that up. I'm sorry.
That's
Plague.
Okay.
I think
or was it?
I think it was the 1300s. Yeah, it was the
1300s. Okay, so did they have plumbing?
A lot of dumb things.
No, I mean, listen.
They didn't have plumbing.
I'm gonna say, when was plumbing invented? Was it invented? Is that? I'm sorry. Earliest evidence of plumbing. Well, buckle up, baby. Earliest evidence of plumbing dates back to 4000 BCE in Mesopotamian areas, which are now part of Iraq.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, because I know, like, the Romans had the baths. They had plumbing.
That's true.
I was thinking about, like, in your household.
Sewage, and sewage out versus... Well, it says... Yeah, first evidence of plumbing is from the ancient Egyptians and Indians. They developed systems of copper piping to transport water from natural sources like wells and springs to homes and public baths. But yeah, 1930s. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Learning a lot.
We are. A lot. And you just have to say some dumb things to
Gotta
get
say
there.
Some dumb shit first. Yep.
We got there.
This whole podcast, last 4 years of this podcast experience have really just been immensely humbling for me.
Same.
I thought I was smart. Not that smart.
Yeah. There's so much that I don't know.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Retweet. And it shows. And it shows. It's true. It's very true.
Yikes.
Oh, okay. God.
So anyway, we learned together.
Yeah.
But back to our 16th century Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay.
So they were taking a picture of it. In the photograph, reflected in the glass of the display case, the museum assistant that they talked to recalled was a woman, or perhaps a girl, or indeed a dwarf, they said. She smiled mischievously. Clumps of her hair were missing, as if they'd fallen out, and she had strange clothes on. The couple insisted they had been entirely alone in the gallery.
And were they sober? I'm just kidding.
Good question. If they're checking out
we
the
had
clocks
5 martinis before, but I felt fine.
Yeah, it was totally fine. But
the clumps of hair missing just makes it exponentially creepier.
Yes, it does. Agreed. Yeah, and maybe they did need something to get through the clocks and watches gallery. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
who knows, man.
Anyway, that's the first one.
Okay.
And then this is a little excerpt from this article that was in The Guardian, I think. So, from a searing heat that descended upon the Mexico Gallery and 200-year-old oak doors opening by themselves to guards flung to the ground by a mysterious force, there have been unexplained incidents throughout the museum. But the Sutton Hoo Gallery is something of a hotspot. It contains the magnificent hoard of treasures from the Anglo-Saxon ship burial that was unearthed from a field in Suffolk in 1939. Angel heard that the landowner, Edith Pretty, had been drawn to investigate the earth mounds on her property because she had seen flaming torchlight around them at night. A story that he later confirmed with a researcher who had worked on the Sutton Hoo find. So that's already weird that she was drawn to look there because of lights that weren't actually there.
Yeah.
So, pretty interesting.
Also, there were a lot of like kind of big deal things just casually flung out in the first sentence, like the searing heat
I know.
and the doors opening and the guards pushed down. Like, what?
I'd like to know more.
Just skimming right over those.
Yeah, I think they want you to read the book because I couldn't find
fair.
any more. Yeah, and I'm sure it's an interesting book. But yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense for this location. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that a lot of indigenous communities are like, that's not yours.
Yes.
Like, give it back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And all together, like what you were saying, like putting all of these energies
in one room.
and things, in the same space, which this is kind of along those lines that one day Noah invited somebody named Patsy, who is a psychic medium, to tour the museum with him. And in an area of intense paranormal activity, Patsy began talking in a low voice about exhibits that shouldn't have been moved. And she was referring to medieval Christian relics that had been removed to make way for a new Islamic gallery. And she described angry forces from a time when Christendom engaged in bloody crusades to recapture Jerusalem. You've replaced Christianity, she said. You have replaced it with something that's a devil to us. So that was her read on that room.
Okay.
Which,
Maybe a little dramatic, but okay.
Patsy is not messing around.
Not having it.
Yeah. So then the last little story was a security guard found himself inexplicably captivated by a 19th century wooden Congolese sculpture of a dog. Sensing that the sculpture had inanimate powers, he pointed his finger towards it, and fire alarms in the gallery went off on cue.
What?
Yeah. What possessed him to point at it? Why did the fire alarms go?
Pointing is considered to be rude and even like forbidden in a lot of cultures. So why would you point?
Yeah, I don't know. He was like overcome by it.
Have you seen, sorry, on like pseudo related, have you seen those like reels or TikToks of that woman being like, remember when you point a finger at someone, you've got 3 fingers pointing back at you, and then it cuts to someone being like jabbing their blade hand at someone.
I haven't seen that. That's really funny.
I just sent one to I think Noah, so I'll find it. Not Noah Angel, but imagine we're on a first name basis. Yeah.
That is funny. And that's so true about pointing.
Yeah. And it's just generally rude.
Yeah. Hey, you.
Yeah. Hey, you.
Yeah. It's not very nice.
No.
Okay. But yeah, that's kind of it for the British Museum generally. But then there is a specific story that's a little bit off topic because it's nothing has happened with this artifact since it has been in the museum, but its history is pretty crazy. And it's a mummy.
Yes.
So
Fuck yes, dude.
Yeah, I think that one of us, I think it might have been me, talked about this a little bit, this specific mummy. But I don't remember this like big backstory, so let me know if you remember all of this. Okay. So the story begins with an Oxford graduate, published author, horse breeder, and amateur archaeologist named Thomas Douglas Murray, who had been visiting Cairo since 1866. Sometime around 1889, he and two colleagues were shown a remarkably well-preserved mummy, supposedly excavated in the 1880s. The hieroglyphics describe the owner as a high priestess of Amun-Ra, which that part has kind of been debunked. But either way, the designs indicate that it was somebody of higher standing.
Importance. Yeah, okay.
So Murray and his friends drew straws. They said drew lots, which I assume is British.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Drew lots.
Drew lots to determine which of them would buy it. Murray won, and he completed the sale. It was packed up and on its way to London shortly after. A few days later, though, Murray's shotgun exploded while he was duck shooting on the Nile. And then
what?
On top of that, there were tremendous headwinds that made it really difficult for them to get back to Cairo to get him medical treatment. And so it was 10 days before he got attention.
10 days?
Yeah, 10 days. And by that time, gangrene had set in and his arm had to be amputated.
Okay, but he survived?
He did, yeah.
Okay, but that's... I mean, they say that a lot of mummy tombs are cursed.
Yes.
Like, not just booby-trapped, but like deeply cursed.
Yeah, like don't touch them.
To not be disturbed.
Yeah, it's do not disturb. Yeah. So that's just one of the first things, really. There's kind of a lot that happened with this.
I'm ready.
Yeah, so on the return journey to Cairo, one of his companions died.
Oh my God.
And the most distressing news was awaiting another member of the expedition. Two servants who had handled the mummy case, perhaps without sufficient respect, both died within a 12-month, a year, whilst a far swifter fate overtook a third who had made some jesting sally. So I assume people weren't treating this with respect. Yeah.
Oh, like how... That can't just be coincidence. Like, do people really try and say, like, oh, it's just a coincidence?
Yeah, I think they do.
Like, curses are real.
Yeah. Say that the whole thing is not true. But I couldn't find... There's part of this story that I'll get to that we know is false. But this part so far seems uncontested-ish.
Ooh.
So,
yikes.
Anyway, so Murray finally gets home with one less arm, and
that's not funny.
He finds his mummy unpacked in his house. And as soon as he got there, he found it chilling and ominous. The formerly beautiful face on the board now seemed full of malevolence. So he had a clairvoyant named Madame Blavatsky come over, and she detected an evil influence when she visited the house. A journalist who was profiling Murray asked to borrow the board, and Murray found himself relieved when it left the house.
Yeah.
And then misfortune struck the journalist while it was in her possession.
No.
Her mother fell downstairs and died. Her fiancé called off their relationship, and her dogs went mad, and she became ill.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She was unsettled, is what it said. So
yeah, I bet.
She returned it to Murray. And rattled, he gave it to another friend.
Oh my God.
Named Mr. Wheeler, who...
Stop passing it around.
I know. He very shortly experienced several sad reverses, which I actually don't know what that means, and died not long afterwards, brokenhearted. Yeah, and then he gave it to his sister. She had trouble, and it just goes on and on. And let's see. Another one, the middleman that handed the mummy over to the British Museum eventually is because everybody, his friend group was like, let's get this, stop giving it to people. So he took it to the
someone
British
has
Museum.
some sense.
Yeah. So the person that took it from him to the museum died shortly after.
Good.
And he had a servant, I guess, and the servant said that he hadn't slept since the day the coffin was brought to him. So he was an Egyptologist. So he was like looking at the hieroglyphics and studying it and just didn't sleep and then died. So
there's something about ancient Egypt that is just so like
mystical.
Yeah, mystical. Yeah. That's such a good word for it. Like, it's like weird to think about, obviously the lifestyle for like, someone in the 1500s was like very different, but at the same time they were just like people going around doing stuff.
Yeah.
Thinking about the ancient Egyptians almost feels like thinking about some like alien race. Like they are just they were so ahead of their time, and like, there was so much like mysticism and magic and like tradition, and I don't know. I mean, it's just so special seeming compared to other cultures.
Yes, it does seem.
And then there's cursed mummies.
Right, that too. Yeah, they left such a legacy, obviously. I mean, they were pretty amazing early culture. That's for sure.
It's wild.
Yeah. So those were all terrible.
Those are all the deaths.
It ends up at the museum, and it has stayed on display since 1890.
Wow.
And that's where the second part of the story is not true. Because some people said that this mummy was on board the Titanic.
Oh.
And they wanted to attribute the sinking to this mummy.
Oh.
But the mummy has not left the museum except for during the World Wars and for one exhibition in the 1990s in Australia.
Yeah, and it would have been ruined if it were in the Titanic.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way it would have survived that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
People are silly little geese.
Yeah. So but that rumor gained traction because the journalist that was working with Murray, the original owner, if you can be the owner.
Yeah.
He was writing an article about it, and Murray, who was into spiritualism, like the Victorian era spiritualism we talked about, he wanted to do a seance with this mummy, and this journalist was going to cover it, and he was on board the Titanic, and he did die when it sunk. So that's how people made
still a bit of a connection.
Yeah, that's true. It could be just that,
especially if he was like, let's do a seance. I mean, nothing more disrespectful than that.
Right, that's true. So,
Jesus.
Anyway, pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, what the hell?
You can see this mummy.
Oh wow!
At the British Museum.
I wonder if people there'd be no way to track this, but like people who like see it and engage with it in a disrespectful way, if there are like higher death rates.
Yeah, that would be.
Or high rates of death or personal injury to, get in a car accident, leaving a museum or whatever. Yeah, it's crazy.
Or just bad luck, weird things.
Yeah, weird things happening.
That's the kind of research I want to do.
Right? Same.
Yeah.
I wonder if do you think the power of a curse fades the more people it touches, or do you think it builds in strength? That the effectiveness of the curse kind of fuels power back into it.
Yeah. Good question. I kind of want to say the latter.
Yeah. At first I was thinking the former, but then I thought, no, because then if more people believe in the curse, that would give it more power.
Yes, exactly.
Whether it's then just like a mind thing or not, it doesn't really matter. It's still having this desired effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's
even if it is like a placebo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still
doesn't matter.
Happening. Yeah, exactly.
It's a weird thought.
It is. Yeah. Oh boy.
Well, oh boy.
To end, we have one more, which is a very different vibe than the British Museum, and it's Zak Bagans Haunted Museum in Las Vegas.
Oh, Zak.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this like at random times throughout, because he pretty much owns like all the haunted objects that we've ever talked about.
Yeah.
It seems,
aside from that other one, the
occult museum.
Yeah, the Warren. No, but not the Warren one. The one with that couple that had transported that thing in their trunk and the car broke down. Yeah. Shoot.
What were they called?
It was called like the Museum of the Strange and Weird or something like that. It had a funny name like that.
I think you're right. It had weird in it for sure.
Yeah. Okay, we'll look it up. But that one was really interesting. That was, I think, a haunted artifacts episode.
Yes. I think, didn't they have the crone of the Catskills?
Yes. They totally did. That's right.
Yeah. And that
all
other
crone all the time.
Yeah.
That
other creepy thing
was scary.
Yeah.
That was really scary. And then when I smelled that pond smell in my hallway.
Yeah. It's over.
Hated that.
No. So, yeah. Between those three, I feel like they cover everything we've ever talked about.
Yes, for sure.
And yeah, like the big ones that I noted were the Dybbuk Box, Peggy, the doll.
Peggy.
And also, I didn't know this, the staircase of the demon house in Indiana that I covered in one of our exorcism episodes. I didn't know that was like a really well-known thing, but he has the staircase and the dirt that was at the bottom in the basement, that where they found all that stuff buried. Do you remember that?
Yes, that gives me why? Yeah. Why would you take that?
I don't know. But
and also, how do you transport a staircase? Like, is it usable?
I don't think so. I think from the
it's
picture,
like displayed.
Yeah, it's just like sitting in a corner on a display.
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah. But it sounds like these things are all coming together to give this place really weird vibes, which is not surprising.
No.
But another thing that consistently these people on Reddit were commenting on is that he has a lot of memorabilia from serial killers. And a lot of people felt like that is very disrespectful.
Yeah.
Because he has like images of the torture chamber and like a bed that still has somebody's blood on it, like the victim's blood.
Come on, Zak.
Yeah, so that takes it way too far.
Yeah, that's not paranormal. That's just fucked.
Yeah, it's not good. And it's violent and borderline like evil to include that in a museum.
That. Yeah, agreed. Also, because you're going there thinking like, ooh, spooky, and then you're like, that's really dark.
Yeah,
I didn't want that.
Right. Somebody's life was lost here.
Yeah, like on that bed. That's horrible.
Yeah. So we will ignore that part. But like, even just for that reason, I don't know if I'd want to go to this museum.
No, that's a good enough reason. That's not cool at all.
Yeah, because gross.
But
consistently also in the comments, people mention Peggy a lot.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They tell people not to look her in the eyes, which I knew from our research. And let's see, they also mentioned the witch head, which I don't know what that is. And one room has pictures of a woman that she took of herself as she became possessed, which I'd love to look into. I don't know what that means. Like selfies with the demon. But
oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway, so Peggy, a lot of people with her get like severe pressure headaches or vomiting,
oh my
which
God.
is interesting because that's what happened to the other people that handled her before she went to this museum.
Before she went on an airplane with a bunch of unsuspecting people.
Yes. Terrible.
Just everyone using barf bags.
Yeah. Oh God. Ew. That's like the flight that had to be rerouted because somebody had such terrible diarrhea. Do you remember that story?
Yes.
Oh God. That
horrible.
I would never recover if I was the person that did that.
No. You would never live that down.
Oh, yeah. Poor thing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yikes. Okay. Well, let's read a couple little stories from Reddit. So, this is from Of the Alder Tree Grove. They wrote, I've been there to the museum. It's really cool. I didn't like how the tours were guided, blah, blah, blah. I had a bit of an experience. There's a mirror in which a woman was stabbed in front of.
Oh my God.
I stared into it and I became mesmerized. Suddenly my vision went black and I felt a stab in my side. I almost fainted and had to be caught.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
That's creepy as hell.
Yeah. And there's another room that has the van that belonged to a doctor, which is Dr. Kevorkian, who performed assisted suicides in the van. And she said that it just made her feel so emotional and she felt like she was feeling everything from the people who died in that van and she almost fainted again. But then she finishes with really cool place. So, yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's kind of another theme that people write about how they get fixated on one object and that's like how they know that something weird is going on.
Weird is happening.
So yeah, and here's another one. It's from Spacey Kins 420. And she says, my husband and I toured the Haunted Museum today, and since we were VIP, we got to tour many of the extra rooms. But the first one included a room of dolls, and my left leg accidentally brushed up against one of them.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Once we hit the Dybbuk Box room, I immediately felt sicker than heck to the point where I was close to vomiting. I shifted my standing position to comfort the feeling, but it didn't go away until we left the room and continued the tour. Later throughout the day, we did the Titanic exhibition and the New York roller coaster. After those activities, I noticed the right side of my neck felt sore, like it was bruised, and when we got to my hotel room, I brushed my hair to the side to show a bruise. I asked my husband to confirm the bruising, as it looks like someone grabbed me when I never felt anything. He took a picture with my phone, and we both have been questioning. I'm honestly scared to sleep tonight since today has shown bad juju. We've had the company of multiple pigeons wherever we went after the tour, and I lost my wallet. Do I have something attached to me, or maybe I'm crazy? And a lot of people were like, the bruise is obviously from the seatbelt of the roller coaster, which I think I would tend to agree with.
Yeah.
Because it is like right where the harness would have gone. But there was somebody who commented on that post. And this is just kind of another similar story. I have to be honest, I went there alone to kill time and see some cool stuff. I had heard of a few objects that were powerful and was curious to see if I felt energy around them. Felt nothing. However, there was a room with a blonde-haired doll that I had to leave immediately. That was Peggy.
Oh, okay.
Felt instant pressure on my skull and a wave of nausea. Walked it off after a few minutes. Also, I was in the back of the line seeing Kevorkian's van, so I lingered a minute observing. When I went to catch up with the group, I thought the floor was one of those funhouse spring floors because my foot felt like it was sinking when I stepped away. First 2 or 3 steps like I had on lead boots. Realized the floor was normal and continued on. It was a pretty cool experience, adds some humor to the tour, and then, yeah, it's more about the distastefulness of the other displays.
Elements.
But yeah,
weird.
She's got a lot of weird things in there.
Yeah,
that's for
a lot
sure.
of haunted shit in one space, which I feel like museums sort of just naturally, even if you're not trying to put together a haunted museum, it's like,
yes, it can happen.
Kind of can't avoid that. Not just haunted, but like bad energy or curses or I don't know, like vengeful energy of ancestors of groups of people who feel that their artifact shouldn't be in the British Museum.
Yes, which is fair. Yes.
Super valid.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting.
All right. Well, on your end of summer vacations, watch out next time you go into a museum.
Yes. And let us know if you've gone to any of these.
Yes.
I'd be very curious.
Yeah, and had a weird experience. Well, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Girls Gone Spooky. You can also watch our episodes on YouTube. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have your own scary stories to share with us, you can DM us or email us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. We will see you next week. And until then, stay spooky.
Bye.